I'm going to show you how to make this necklace that I'm calling Prom Night Necklace. It just looks like something you should wear to a formal, to a prom, something like that. So I've decided to call it that. And this is just a series of netting type stitches, and it's fairly simple. It looks rather complicated, but it's fairly simple. It does take a lot of crystal, and it does take a lot of seed beads, and it does take a lot of 8mm round beads. But if you go ahead and invest in it, I think you'll find that you really enjoy it. It's a really nice project. Anyway, let's look and see what we need for this project. Okay, for this project, you'll need 11/0 seed beads, and you'll need quite a few of them. I'm using an 11/0 Toho that is bronze, metallic bronze color. You will need a toggle clasp, and I'm using this little copperish, bronzy colored clasp that kind of matches my 11/0s. You will need a 4mm bicone, and I'm using a clear Swarovski bicone. And you will need 8mm beads. I'm using this 8mm fire polish bead. Of course, you can use a pearl, a crystal, whatever you would like, as long as it's 8mm and it's round. And this is just kind of a half metallic-y type blue, bronze, and cream. It's a really pretty little bead. So that's what I'm using for my fire polish, or for my 8mm round bead. So then you will need a beading needle. I'm using a size 10, and I will be using 8-pound fire line, and you'll want to start with 2 wingspans of fire line on your needle. And let's go ahead and get started with this project. Okay, to start, you will pick up 3 11/0 seed beads, a bicone crystal, 3 11/0 seed beads, and a fire polish, or your 8mm round, onto your needle. And this is what you should have. Let's get a little closer here. This is what you'll have. 3 of your 11/0s, a bicone, 3 11/0s, and an 8mm round. Bring it down to the end of your thread and leave about a 12-inch tail. And then you will go back into, from the tail side, you will go back into your 11/0s and your fire polish bead, and then, and your bicone crystal, and you'll pull them into a circle here, like this. And then we will go back into the next 3 11/0 seed beads. So we're just making a loop. We're going through the 11/0s, the bicone and the 11/0s, and then back into our fire polish bead. And pull your thread through. I'm going to turn, and this is what you should have, just like this. And we're going to take the working thread and the tail thread, and we're going to tie a knot, just to make sure that everything is secure. Just like that. Let's do it one more time. Just like that. And this is what you should have. Just a little loop on the side of your 8mm round. Then you're going to pick up 3 more of your 11/0s, a bicone crystal, and then 3 more 11/0 seed beads, like this. And you're coming out of this side of the fire polish. We're going to go into the opposite side and pull. And we're going to sew back up through these just to make sure that this first unit is very secure. Go up through the 3 11/0s, the bicone, and then go through the next 3 11/0s, and then back through your fire polish bead. Now, our tail is on the same side as we're going to work through. So we're just going to ignore the tail, and we're going to pick up a bicone crystal. And slide it down until it lands right between the 11 O's, just like this. And then we will pick up a fire polish bead and drop it down. So you have what looks like this. Then we will pick up 3 11-0 seed beads, a bicone crystal, and 3 11-0 seed beads. If I can get them on my needle, there we go. Just like that. Now we're coming out of this side of the fire polish. We're going to go into the opposite side of the fire polish bead. Ignore the bicone crystal, just go through the fire polish bead. Now as you pull this down, you're going to want to make sure that the fire polish bead butts up right next to the bicone crystal here. So just kind of hold on to your bead and pull your thread and make sure that there's no slack between the bicone crystal and the fire polish beads. Then we're going to pick up 3 11-0 seed beads, a bicone crystal, and then 3 11-0 seed beads, like this. We're coming out of this side of the fire polish bead. We're going to go in through the back side. Ignore the bicone crystal, but try not to move your bead away from the bicone, and pull. Just like that. And this is what it should look like. Then pick up a bicone crystal. These little clear bicone crystals are hard for me to see the hole. And then drop it down and butt it up against the fire polish bead real tight. And then pick up a fire polish bead, just like this. Bring it down. And again, we will pick up 3 11-0 seed beads and a bicone crystal and 3 11-0 seed beads onto our needle like this. And then again, we're coming out of this end of the fire polish bead. We're going to go into the opposite end. Hold on to your fire polish bead and pull your thread, making sure that there is no slack between the fire polish bead and the bicone crystal. Let's get a little closer so you can see exactly what I have. Just like that. Pull it tight. And then you will pick up 3 11-0 seed beads and a bicone crystal and 3 11-0 seed beads. Like this. Whoops, we need 3, not 2. There we go. Like this. And we're coming out of this side. We're going to go into the opposite side of the fire polish bead and pull. Just like that. And again, making sure there's no slack between our beads. And they'll move a little bit, but you don't want much slack between them. Try to keep them as tight as possible, like this. And then pick up another bicone crystal. These bicone crystals just won't pick up. And then a fire polish bead. Drop them down, butt them up against the previous unit, and then again pick up 3 11-0 seed beads, a bicone crystal, and 3 11-0 seed beads. Do as we've been doing all along. Hold your bicone crystal or your fire polish bead close to the bicone and go into the opposite side with your beads like this. Or with your needle, I guess, not with your beads. Make sure there's no slack, and then do the same for the other side again. Pick up 3, be back off. I don't know how much I was out of camera. I apologize for that. Or out of frame, I guess. Then pick up 3 11-0 seed beads, a bicone crystal, and 3 11-0 seed beads. Go into the opposite side of the fire polish bead and pull your beads through. Now you're going to continue doing this until you have 33 fire polish beads on your strand. So do this until you have 33 and we'll be back. Okay, so I have made my 33 units. So what you'll do is just count, of course, your 8mm bead, and when you have 33 of them, then you are finished with that step. Now I have taken, this is my working thread side. This is where I ended. This is my tail side. I have taken my needle off of my working thread. I put it onto my tail. Because as you remember, we came out with our tail on the bottom of this bead here. I want to go up through this bead and thread my tail through so that it's coming out the end of our piece. And then I'm just going to take my needle off that piece of thread, back off here again, and I'm going to put it back on my working thread. So just thread your little tail through the bead so that it's coming at the very end and it's ready for your clasping. And go ahead and put your needle back on the piece of thread that you were working with, and it should be exiting out the very last fire polish bead that you added. And we'll be back. So after you have put your needle back onto your working thread and you're coming out of the very last fire polish bead that you added right here, you are then, we're now going to put one end of our clasp on. So pick up a bicone crystal and drop it down. And then we are going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead and drop it down. We're going to pick up our clasp and drop it down. So this is what you'll have. Then you'll go back through the 11-0 in the crystal, and then through the fire polish bead and exit just out the fire polish bead here. Now line it up to where there's a little bit of movement with your thread here. You don't want it really, really tight where it won't move at all, but you don't want it really loose either. Just nice like this. I'll show you how it looks. Just like that. And then we're coming out of this fire polish bead. We are going to sew up through these little 11-0s here. And then we're going to sew into the crystal and the 3 11-0s on the other side of the fire polish bead. Then I'm going to come up through the bicone crystal right underneath it here and up through my crystal and my 11-0, go around the clasping, go into the 11-0 and the bicone crystal and down through the fire polish bead, just like this. Now make sure that you pull your clasp just right, so you still want it to move, and then come up through the other side of the beads on the fire polish bead. So you'll go up through these 3 11-0s here, the crystal, these 3 11-0s here, up through the bicone crystal and the 11-0, and then through the clasp. Pull it all nice and neat. Come back down around. And through the fire polish bead. Just like that. Make sure that everything's nice and neat. And then we are going to sew back through all of these beads here. Oops, out of frame again. Back through these beads, and we'll come up to the top, exit right here. So we're going to go into these 3 11-0s. And we're going to go into these, into the bicone, and then up through these 3 11-0s. We're going to come out of this 11-0 seed bead here. Now, we are going to go directly down into the fire polish bead. We're going to sew all the way to the other end. We're going to go into this fire polish bead here. Then we're going to go into the crystal beneath it. This is just going to secure and pull everything nice and straight for us. So now we're going to go into the next fire polish bead. We're going to sew the entire length of our units, just going right down the middle of all of them. So I've gone through this bicone crystal and this fire polish. I'm going to go down through this bicone crystal and this fire polish, and I'm just going to continue until I get all the way to the other end of my piece. Just going all the way down the middle. This pulls everything together. This gives us a little bit more support, and it also makes sure there's no slack between the bicone crystals and the fire polish beads. It's just a way of securing everything. So just continue sewing through all the middle beads, avoid all the 11-0s, and go all the way to the end, and we'll be back. Okay, so I have gone all the way through my entire length of my first units for my necklace. This is my tail coming out of this end, and this is my working thread. I'm just going to ignore my tail. I'm coming out of this bead right here. I'm going to turn my piece here, and I'm just going to sew up through these first 3 11-0s and the bicone crystal, just like this. And then I'm going to pull my thread through. Now, at this point, you probably would need to add more thread. So what I did was I just joined my thread. And those of you that don't know how to join your fire line, need to look up Joining Fire Line for Bead Weaving on YouTube. It's a little video. Learn how to join your fire line. I also show it in a couple of my videos, but I don't remember exactly which ones. Anyway, just join your fire line and get yourself another long length of thread to go through the next phase here. So anyway, we're coming out of this little bicone crystal on the top now. Now we need to select the top of our bead. So this is going to be the top of my necklace here. This is what I'm going to determine as the top. So these beads spin and turn a little bit. Once we do this step, then they won't spin and turn so much, and you will pretty much have it established as what's the top and what's the bottom completely, because it won't move anymore. So what we're going to do now is we're going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead, a bicone crystal, and an 11-0 seed bead. We're coming out of this bicone crystal here. We are going to sew into the next bicone crystal, just like this, and pull. And then we're going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead, a bicone crystal, an 11-0 seed bead, and we're going to slide from this bicone to the next bicone. The bicone we're exiting into the very next bicone. And we're going to do this the entire length of our necklace. And this will cinch it up and turn this, turn our units into a circle shape for our necklace. So we'll lose a little bit of length here, as we do this, but it's what's going to shape everything up and give it the nice collar shape. So continue going from bicone crystal to bicone crystal with 11O seed bead, bicone crystal, and 11O seed bead. Slide from bicone to bicone the entire length of the necklace, just like this. Once you get to the end, we'll be back. Okay, so I have added my little embellishment with my bicone crystal 11O bicone crystal and 11O all the way around until I have gotten all the way and exiting here. Now I want you to take your needle off of your working thread, just leave it exiting this last bicone crystal, and put it on to your tail, and we'll add the clasp on this side. Okay, so I have put my needle onto my tail, and now I'm going to attach the other half of my clasp. I'm going to pick up a bicone crystal and an 11O seed bead and my clasp, and I'm going to drop them down. Then, just like we did before, we're going to go around the clasp into the 11O seed bead, into the bicone crystal, and then exit out the bottom of the fire polish bead here. Let's get a little closer. And then we're going to sew up the 3 11Os right on the outside of the fire polish bead here, in through the bicone, up through the 3 11Os, up into, the bicone crystal, into the 11O. Make sure you leave a little bit of slack, just enough to where your clasp can move, and then come up into the bicone crystal and the 11O. Untangle your thread 20 times. There we go. Go around the clasping again, back into the bicone crystal, into the fire polish bead, and again making sure you have movement in your clasp but not a ton of slack, and then up through the little 11Os excuse me, in through the bicone crystal and the 11Os again, up through the bicone crystal and the 11O. So basically you're just sewing around, securing it, making sure you get at least 3 loops around your clasp here. So go through it at least 3 times. And then back down through. And then we're going to grab a little half hitch knot here. So we're going to grab a thread bridge. There's one right here. I'm going to grab, and I'm going to make a little half hitch knot. And then I'm going to sew into the bicone crystal, well, if I can get in there, and down through the next fire polish bead and bicone crystal, and I'm going to grab another half hitch knot on a thread bridge. And you want to make these small because we're going to pass through these crystals and fire polish beads again a few times, so we want to be really careful how we put our knots in here so that we don't end up making it to where we can't pass through the beads again. So I've got my little knot. I'm going to go into this one, and then I'm just going to, you can continue going down as far as you want, but I'm going to cut this off right here, leave a little length. It's a little too much length, and curl it down And like this. Show you what it looks like. And this is what we have so far. Now we're going to put our needle back onto our working thread that's coming out of the last bicone crystal here. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. So I've put my needle back onto my working thread, and I'm coming out of this little bicone crystal here. Now I am going to sew back up through these little 3 11-ohs and then back down into this fire polish bead. Now it seems a little redundant, but we're going to sew all the way back through the middle of the necklace again until we get to the other side. Now there's a couple of reasons for that. One is strength. It's going to really secure our necklace and give it some form and strength. Also, it's going to set the embellishment that we just put on here. So you want to make sure as you come out these 11-oh seed beads that you pull your thread just enough to where it makes a nice circle and you have no slack whatsoever in your last embellishment. Then after you've done that, you're going to go through the fire polish bead right here. You're coming out of this little 11-oh seed bead here. You're going to go into the fire polish bead and then into the bicone crystal right underneath it. If I can get through it. There we go. And then the next fire polish, as many as you can get. We're going to sew just like we did a few minutes ago, all the way through the entire necklace, going through the center fire polish beads and bicone crystals. We're going to go all the way around and exit out the top of the opposite end of the fire polish bead here. So go ahead and sew all the way through your entire necklace and we'll be back. Okay, so I have sewn all the way up through the middle of all of my bicone crystals and fire polish beads right up the very center of my necklace. And I am now exiting right here on this end. Let me get a little closer. And turn my necklace some so that you can see where I am. Now I am coming out of this fire polish bead after coming through all of my center beads. I'm going to go into these 3 11-oh seed beads right here. Get you a little bit closer. And then we're going to come through just the bicone crystal and exit. Now, my little beads have folded up under here. Now I'm going to do an embellishment from crystal to crystal until I get to the 13th fire polish bead. So I'm going to do an embellishment until I get 13 beads down, and then we will change what we're doing. So first, we're exiting this bicone crystal here. We're going to pick up 3 11-oh seed beads and a bicone crystal and 3 11-oh seed beads. We're exiting here. We're going to go into the very next bicone crystal. Now make sure, not only with this embellishment, but with the middle embellishment, that as you're going from crystal to crystal, you don't pick up 11-ohs on either side because it will throw the necklace off. It won't look right, and it won't lay right. So, let me get that. There we go. This is what we will have right here. So we're going to do it in the next one now. We're going to back off a little bit here. Pick up 3 11-oh seed beads, a bicone crystal, and 3 11-oh seed beads. And we're going to slide from this bicone to this bicone. And we're going to continue doing this until we get, like I said, to the 13th bead. So continue until you get 13 beads down of your fire polish beads, that is, and we'll be back. Okay, so what I have done is I have done this little embellishment all the way. This is number 12, my bead number 12. I am coming out, okay, right here. I am coming out of the bicone crystal right in the center of bead number 12. Bead number 13, we're going to start our other embellishments. So the way we're going to do this is we are going to sew up into these three. We're coming out of this on bead number 12, on the fire polish bead number 12. We're coming out of this little bicone crystal. We're going to go up into these three little 11 seed beads right here. And then we're going to go into the bicone in between. And then we're going to go all the way through the fire polish bead here. Just like this, the 13th fire polish bead. You're going to slide through. Then you're going to sew down these three 11-ohs here, right in front of the little bicone. We're going to go right down into these three. And then we're going to go into the bicone crystal right there and exit. Okay, so we're exiting the bicone crystal on the 13th fire polish bead in our necklace. We're going to pick up three 11-oh seed beads. And then we're going to pick up a fire polish bead. This, we back off just a little bit here. Drop them down. Then we're going to pick up three more 11-oh seed beads. We're going to come into the opposite side of the bicone crystal. So we're exiting from here. We're going to go into the opposite side of the same bicone crystal that we started from and just go through the bicone crystal, just like this. And then we're exiting the bicone. We're going to go through these three little 11-oh seed beads here, just like this, and then back through the bicone crystal and tighten everything up. And that's what that should look like. And now we will pick up three 11-oh seed beads, a bicone crystal, and three 11-oh seed beads. And we will come back through. We're exiting here from the fire polish bead. We'll go into the opposite side and pull tight. Now we need to secure this little loop that we just made around the bottom. So we are going to go into the, we're exiting the fire polish bead. We're going to go into the three 11-oh seed beads and the bicone crystal here and pull tight. Just like that. Now, we will begin to add our next fire polish bead. So we will need to pick up three 11-oh seed beads. Now, you know, I think you could go ahead and add your next bead, but I think it's a lot safer if you just go ahead and go up through the three 11-ohs on the other side, back through the fire polish bead. This kind of tightens everything up and makes it look a lot neater. And then come back down through the 11-ohs on the other side and back through the bicone crystal before you start your next one. This is going to add a whole lot of strength, and it's going to keep everything nice and neat. Sorry, I know my hands are in the way, but I'm having a hard time finding a good angle to sew this in. Just like that. Now we're ready to add our next fire polish bead. Now this is where our dangles will start. So we'll do 3 fire polish beads down on this segment here, then on the next one 3 more, and then we'll do 4, 4, and then 5, and then back down. So let's go ahead and start our next fire polish bead. Okay, to add the next fire polish bead in our dangle, we're going to pick up 3 11-0 seed beads. Now we are coming out of this little bicone crystal. Here, we're going to pick up 3 11-0 seed beads and a fire polish bead like this. I'm going to bring them down. Whoops. Bring them down here. And then we will pick up 3 more 11-0 seed beads. And we're going to go into the opposite side of the same bicone that we started out in. So we started here on this side. We're going to go into the opposite side and just go through the bicone and pull. And now we have our second fire polish bead. And we need to secure this, so I'm going to sew down through these 3 11-0s here, right here, and then up through the fire polish bead. Now you could just, from this point, add your next bead, but like I said before, I just like to make sure it's nice and secure and isn't going to pull out and it's going to stay nice and neat. So I'm going to go back up through the 11-0s on this side, just make a complete loop with my thread all the way around my new bead. So I've come up through these 11-0s here. I'm going to come into the fire polish bead here, or excuse me, the bicone crystal, and pull through, and then go down through the 11-0s on the other side. All I'm doing is just sewing back around all the beads I just added, and then back through my fire polish, just like this. Now I have 2 beads for my dangle. Now my first 2 dangles are going to consist of 3 fire polish beads. So I'm going to add 1 more. I'm going to pick up 3 11-0 seed beads and a bicone crystal and 3 11-0 seed beads. I'm going to drop them down and go into the opposite side of the fire polish bead and pull. And then I'm going to sew back through all of these beads in order to secure my next addition of a bead that will start from this bicone crystal. So I want to make sure all of these are nice and secure, so I'm just going to sew back through all of the beads. And to get through those, just make them nice and neat, and then go back through the fire polish bead. And then we need to sew up to the top, to the bicone, in order to be in position to add our next fire polish bead. So come up through the 3 11-0s and then into the bicone crystal right here. Now we will add our next fire polish bead. Now we're exiting this bicone crystal here, and we're going to go ahead and add our next fire polish bead for our dangle. So we're going to pick up 3 11-0 seed beads, our fire polish bead, and 3 11-0 seed beads. Now we're going to go back through the bicone crystal on the opposite side that we're exiting from. I'm doing this with my left hand, so if it looks a little awkward, well, it is. There we go. And then I'm going to sew back down through all the beads I just added. So I'm going to go through the 311-0s, up through the fire polish bead, back up the 311-0s, into my bicone crystal that I started in, maybe, there we go. And then back down through my 311-0s, and then into my fire polish bead. And now I'm just going to add my very end piece. So I will add, I won't add another one, but I will put the little bicone crystal and the seed beads along the bottom of my last bead. So I'm going to pick up 3 11-0 seed beads and a bicone crystal and 3 11-0 seed beads. And then I'm going to go through my fire polish bead. And if you can pick up all your beads at the same time. It's like this. And that will bring you around twice. It'll do your securing for you without having to pull it down and then sew through it again. So there we go. Now that's secured. Now we are going to add a little embellishment up the top of this to finish our dangle. So the way we're going to do that, I need to turn my project around a little bit so I can actually get to it. You can see the little spaces between the 11-0 seed beads here. That's where we're going to add crystals. So what we need to do to be able to get in position to do that is we need to come down through all the beads again and exit this little 11-0 seed bead over here. So I am going to come up through my 3 11-0s and then up through these 3 11-0s. But I'm not going to go back into the fire polish bead now. So now we're coming out of this little 11-0 seed bead here. We're going to pick up a bicone crystal and we're going to go into the next 11-0 seed bead. And just the next 11-0 seed bead. Not all three of them, just one. So come up through one and then pull your little bicone crystal down in between the beads on your dangle here. Back off a little. Now we're coming out of this one 11-0 seed bead here. We're going to pick up another bicone crystal. We're going to skip all of these 11-0s here in between, and we're just going to pick up the very last one right before the fire polish bead here. So let me show you real close. So we're going to skip all of them, and we're just going to go into this one here. And pull. And now you can see that you have a bicone crystal between the little beads on the little 11-0s around the fire polish bead, and then you're going to go through one single 11-0, put a fire polish bead in, and then go through the next single 11-0 at the very end of your V shape of 11-0s. And then we're going to do the same thing all the way up the length of the dangle. So I'm coming out of this 11-0 now. I'm going to pick up a bicone crystal. I'm going to go into the next just one 11-0 seed bead on the other side and pop this down in between. And now I'm going to pick up another bicone and I'm going to skip all of these 11-0s and just go into the very last one. Just like this, and pull. And now I'm going to pick up a bicone and put it here. So we will go just, in this one you can go ahead and go up all of the 11-0s. We're on our last one, so just go ahead and go up all 3 11-0s and then go into the little bicone crystal on top. So we have to get our way down to the other side so that we can embellish the other side. So now we're here. We're going to go down these 3 11-ohs here. And now we're going to pick up a bicone crystal and do the same embellishment all the way down our dangle here. So let me pick up a bicone crystal, and then I'm going to go from this 11-oh to the very next 11-oh. Just one. Then I'm going to pick up a bicone, and I'm going to skip all of these 11-ohs and just go into the very last one on the next fire polish bead and pull, just like that. And then make sure you kind of cinch it up, and then pick up a bicone, go into just the top one in the next set of 11-ohs and pull. And again, pick up a bicone, go from this 11-oh here to the top one in your next set on the fire polish bead. And then again, we need to place one more. Pick up a bicone crystal, go from 11-oh to 11-oh, and here you can go down all 3 of them, as we need to sew back up so that we can get over to our next fire polish bead to make our next dangle. So what we're going to do then is we're coming out of these 11-ohs right here, we're going to sew up into the bicone. We're going to sew up into these 3 11-oh seed beads and into our little bicone crystal here. And now we're going to go into the first 11-oh seed bead that we're connected to, and we're going to go into the bicone right above it. So basically we're just sewing back through what we've sewn through. Pick up the 11-oh, go into the next bicone, pick up the next 11-oh, and go into the next bicone. We're moving our way up the little dangle so we can get our thread in position to continue our necklace. And go up the next one. Through the bicone. And the 3 11-ohs on top of it. Here. Into the little bicone crystal here. And now we need to sew up through these and then into our fire polish bead. Actually, we'll sew into the next fire polish bead, but this is what we'll do. We'll go up these 3 11-oh seed beads right here. We'll go into this bicone crystal in the middle, the next one. So our thread path goes this way originally. We're going to go into the next bicone here and the fire polish bead here. So you can see where I'm at. Let me get my necklace arranged so you can see what I'm doing. Here's my first dangle. I need to move this way because I have my little frilly embellishment over here. So I'm going to move into my next fire polish bead right here. And then I'm going to go down into these 3 11-oh seed beads here. Because I only got 2, so let me go into the third one. It's very awkward doing this upside down so that you guys can see it. So if I look really clumsy, I apologize. Okay, so here I am. right here. Back off. Alright, so I've got my little frilliness. I've got my first little dangle here of 3 fire polish beads and all my little crystals. I did my embellishment. Now I'm going to start my next dangle, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. We are going to pick up 3 11-0 seed beads. We're exiting the little bicone crystal. So now we need to pick up 3 11-0 seed beads and a fire polish bead and 3 11-0 seed beads. We're going to drop them down. We're going to come into the opposite side of the bicone crystal here and pull our fire polish bead up. We're going to sew down and around the entire set of beads we just put on. So we'll go down these 3 11-0s into the fire polish and then up. Let me get a little closer. Up the 3 11-0s on this side and into the bicone that we're connected to. Back down the 3 11-0 seed beads into the fire polish bead. And we're going to do exactly as we did on the last dangle. Go ahead and add 2 more fire polish beads. You'll pick up 3 11-0s, a bicone crystal, 3 11-0s, sew through them, end up exiting the bicone crystal, add your next 11-0s and your next fire polish bead, and move down until you have all 3, and you will put your last little loop on the bottom, and then we will come back and we'll embellish that one, and then we'll move over and start our next unit of 4 in our next dangle, and we'll be back. Okay, so I have done my second dangle with my 3 fire polish beads. I put on my last loop. I sewed through the fire polish, back down through all of my little loop beads, and secured it, and then sewed back through again until I'm exiting just the little 11-0s right here on the outside of my little loop. I'm going to pick up a bicone crystal, and I'm going to slide from this little 11-0 just into the first 11-0 on the next one. And we're going to do exactly what we did on our last one to embellish. So again, we'll pick up a bicone crystal. We'll go from this bead to just the very top bead on the next fire polish. Now we're going to continue doing this just like we did on this one, and we're going to get all the way up. We're going to go from here to here, put a bicone crystal in here, put a bicone, or after you put your bicone crystal in here, sew up through the 3, sew through your bicone crystal here, sew down through these 3, put a bicone crystal, do the same exact embellishment like we did on this one. You can back up the film and watch if you need to go through it again, and go all the way down, sew all the way back up, and then we will travel over to do our next bead. Okay, so here, as you can see, I am just about done with my crystal embellishment on my second dangle. I'm coming out of my very last little 11-0 here before putting my last bicone in my last little space between the 11-0 seed beads. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in. We're going to go through all 3 of our 11-0 seed beads, and just like we did on the other one, we are going to come through the bicone crystal here. We're going to go up the 3 11-0 seed beads on this side, get into the bicone, the very first bicone in your embellishment once you get through these, and then you're going to start sewing your way back up the unit by picking up the bicone, the 11-0, the bicone, the 11-0, the bicone, and just go all the way up following the same thread path, and then come through your bicone crystal and your 11-0s here, and we'll be back. Okay, so as you can see now, I have sewn all the way up my little second dangle. I've sewn through these 3 11-0s, through my bicone crystal, and now I am going to sew up through the 311 on the opposite side and pull my thread through. I'm going to then sew into the bicone crystal right above my 11 here, and then through the next fire polish bead. And then we are going to sew down into these 3 11 on the other side of the fire polish bead we are now exiting. We are then going to sew through the bicone crystal, and we are going to start another dangle unit, exactly like I showed you, except this time, instead of just making 3 fire polish bead dangle, you're going to make a 4 fire polish bead dangle. You're going to do it exactly the same way that you did these two. So we will just start picking up our 311 seed beads, our fire polish bead, our 311 come through, go sew through it, go through the fire polish, do the same thing exactly. You can back up and watch how to make the first unit several times if you need to. It's just instead of stopping on the 4th when we put our dangle here, you'll come through the dangle one more time, put another fire polish bead, and then make a little bottom loop on your 4th bead instead of on your 3rd. You'll make 2 units that way. After you've made your little dangle with your 4 beads in it, then you will add your embellishment with your bicone crystals coming up, sewing through it, sew back up through the top, sew into your next bead, and make another unit with 4. And then you will, after you've made 2 units of 4 and totally embellish them, then you will make a unit of 5 dead center. And then you will move over and make, after you have your 5 unit, then you will do just the opposite and start going 4 and then 3. So we will do our 2 4 units here, a 5 unit, 2 4 units, and then 2 3 units. So 2 3 units, 2 4 units, a 5 unit, 2 4 units, 2 3 units. And then we will be back. Okay, so I wanted to show you what I have so far. I made our 2 3 units with our 3 fire polish beads, of course, our 3 fire polish bead dangles, I guess is what I want to say here. And then I made 2 dangles with 4 fire polish beads. You just add 1 more as you're coming down, just like you did with the 3. And then in dead center, we do 1 unit of 5. And now you can see I've made my 1 unit of 5. I sewed all the way back up my side, just like I did with my other units. And I'm coming out of this little bicone crystal now because I went into my next fire polish bead, and I'm ready to start my next unit. So now that I've done 3, 4, and 5, now I'm going to do 4 and then 3. So I'll do 2 units with 4, or 2 dangles with 4 fire polish beads and 2 dangles with 2 fire polish beads, and then I will be back and we will continue this embellishment on the other side so that it matches. Okay, so I have completed all of my dangles. We did the middle one with 5, and then down 4, and then 3, and now I am coming out of, I finished my last little unit. I sewed up through the fire polish bead here, just as we had been doing, through the little bicone crystal here, through the 311 and then through this bicone crystal here. And this is where we will start our embellishment again up the side, like we did on the other side. So I'm coming out the bicone crystal, and I will pick up 3 11 seed beads, a bicone crystal, and 3 11 seed beads. And then I will travel from bicone crystal to bicone crystal and pull them down. Like that. And then we will travel to the next bicone crystal. First we'll pick up 3 11 seed beads, a bicone, and 3 11-0 seed beads. We'll go from this one to this one. And we will do this embellishment all the way until we get to the very last bicone crystal, and we'll be back. Okay, so now I have finished my entire embellishment going all the way up the other side of the necklace here, and now I am exiting my very last bicone crystal right here, and now I'm just going to sew through and tie off. So what I will do is I will sew through the 3 11-0s on the other side of the bicone crystal. I'm coming out of right here. Then I will sew down the fire polish bead in the center here. Make sure your last embellishment is tight and there's no slack. Grab a thread bridge right here next to the bicone crystal and tie a half-hitch knot, making sure that the knot goes down between the beads. And then slide down the bicone crystal and the next fire polish bead and do the same thing. Grab a thread bridge right here by the bicone crystal and tie, oops, I didn't get underneath there. Okay, so I'm going to take that out. And I'm going to grab the thread bridge again, right here. And tie a knot. And then slide down the bicone crystal and the fire polish bead, and you can do this as many times as you would like. When you're done and you feel satisfied, cut your thread, bring the end with the lighter to curl it in, and we'll be back. And this is our finished project right here. I hope you enjoyed this project. Now, one note on length. This is about an 18-inch necklace. Now, if you want to make this bigger, you will have to make more of your original units, and you have to make sure that you end on an odd number. So like we made 33 here. So you will have to make this an odd number. And then you can establish your dead center by folding it in half and finding your most center bead. After you make your entire first step, fold it in half, find your most center bead, make sure you line your beads perfectly so that you can find your center bead. That's the easiest way to do it. And then after you find that, you will count not the center bead, but the next one next to it. 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll count 4 over from your dead center bead, and that is the bead that you will start your dangles in. Everything else will be the same. But if you want your necklace to be centered, not off-centered, you have to establish your dead center and then work 4 beads over from that, and then do your dangles exactly like I showed you. Anyway, that's the project. I hope you like it. See you later. Bye-bye.